Peace and blessings. Right, we are back with part 2 of me watching Millennium 2000. If you haven't seen the first part, go back to the first part and watch that, because we're going to get into this with no more introduction.
Communism is not a creation of the masses to overthrow the banking establishment. The banking establishment is, well, it has been set up to overthrow and enslave the masses. The privately owned Federal Reserve is just that. It's private. It's not owned by you. The national debt is to the international banksters. Communism was never, well, run from the United States, or was it? Well, you got to stop and think about that for a moment.
Do you?
And when you really find out what's going down, you really find out what's going down at the bottom line, you'll discover that communism was never run from Moscow, Hanoi, or Peking. It was run from London, New York, and Washington, DC. On the backside of the dollar bill, you'll find the Illuminati pyramid, Annuit Septus, Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. What is all that about? I'm going to ask Jordan Maxwell. Jordan?
Yes, I will use this one I think would be better for. The Novus, let's start with the Annuit Coeptus. Annuit Coeptus is Latin, meaning our enterprise or our project is now a success or has been crowned with success. So then you say, well, your project is now crowned with success. What is the project? Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is novus, meaning new, ordo, order, the new order. Seclorium is the word secular in Latin, meaning the world, the new order of the world. You will notice that there are 13 layers in the pyramid. There are 13 letters in Annuit Coeptus. There are 13 stars above the head of the eagle. There are 13 berries and 13 leaves. There are 13 arrows. There are 13 stripes. Everything is done in sequence of 13 except the wings, which are...
But we know what the 13 stands for. It's not hidden or occult. It's for the 13 colonies. That's all it's really about.
There are 13 stripes. Everything is done in sequence of 13 except the wings, which are 32 and 33 for the 32nd degree and 33rd degree of Freemasonry. The 13 is said to be an unlucky number because it represents originally Jesus and the 12. Because Jesus and the 12 are the basis for a new order of the world. And so this has been borrowed and used, and I think very cleverly. So it's an unlucky number, we're told, because you're not supposed to use it. To show you how this symbolism on the dollar bill is there's quite a bit of symbolism on the dollar bill here. I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side of the $1 bill at the top on the 1. You'll see at the top, right here on the little curvature, if you look very closely, you will see an owl that you can... It is used as a symbol because it sees things in the dark. The little owl on the symbol on the dollar bill is to symbolize something the Bohemian Society, which is incidentally meeting this month up in San Francisco. The owl is an occult symbol used by the Bohemian Society and the Illuminati in general because it symbolizes that you can... It is used as a symbol because it sees things in the dark. And that's why it's wise, implying that our political leaders are seeing things in the dark. They are aware of many dark things which are going on, and that's why they're wise, and you're not. So that's why they are the owls on the dollar bill.
It's important to...
This kind of reminds me of what I was saying in the other video about the world being dark. See, I'm now interpreting these slogans as seeing through the darkness, as opposed to how they're framing it of they're hiding, like they hide things. Like an owl isn't an evil creature, is it? Just because it could see in the dark. The owl has always been seen as a wise creature. It's always been a symbol of wisdom. So in this dark world, it is wise, has knowledge.
Bring up this particular point. The Bohemian Grove, and this is where all of the fellas meet and run around it in the forest nude, is where this new counsel for the President of the United States goes when he is on vacation. And his name is?
Yeah, well, all the presidents are
No,
there.
I'm talking about the new so-called Republican advisor of to the President of the United States. And of course we found individuals like Ronald Reagan, Gerald Ford, Carter, all dressed in black robes, hooded robes, looking up and worshiping what?
The owl. The owl in front of a bonfire, a large bonfire. And incidentally, we have pictures of all of the American presidents. This has appeared in 3 different magazines, which I have color pictures of. All the American presidents standing around the bonfire in capes and pointed hats, like the Ku Klux Klan type of regalia.
Well, I'm a little confused.
Yes.
And I'm
Okay. Again, this is a framing issue. Yes, the Bohemian Club exists. It is like a summer camp holiday type of thing for, I guess, professional and elite members of society. And yes, there is this play that happens called the Cremation of Care. And they've got a 30-foot stone owl. Basically, it's just a theatrical little play that's been happening since the beginning of the Bohemian Society. It's not a real ritual. It's not worshipping an owl. And as far as I'm aware, all the presidents, what he just said, aren't the ones that are partaking in this play. They're not the actors. They're sat watching it. It can't be this dangerous and this spooky if Alex Jones was able to sneak in and film it. If he was able to mix in with like the most evil people, either they're not the most evil people or maybe Alex Jones is one of them. I don't think that either, but again, there's nothing really nefarious going on here.
maybe others are out there. Look, what is this Bohemian Society? Where are they located? And are they another subgroup of the Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers? I mean, all these other cults, they're just another subgroup then, right?
Yes, but this is a social group. This is a purely a social get-together that they say they do not express business or discuss business.
Well, wait a minute, I don't think so. At a social group, you don't generally stand out in the woods dressed
in Ku Klux
Klan outfits, you know, worshiping the owl.
Yeah, in front of a bonfire. But there's a reason for that, because the fire is the fire of the illumination. The fire is what
of the Illuminati.
Of the Illuminati, of course.
And we're talking about Ronald Reagan, who so many...
No, that's even not true. The bonfire that they're talking about isn't the fire of the Illuminati. It's the Cremation of Care. Sure, looks spooky. What can I say? But it's still nothing evil being done. It's just rich people being weird. What can I say?
Oh, yes.
The conservatives supported. They used to call him Red Ronnie.
Absolutely. Ronald Reagan is a member of this organization, just as and incidentally, in their own publication, they say that the reason they are called the Bohemian Society because a Bohemian is someone, I'm roughly paraphrasing, someone who does not live by the same morals and ethics that the populace does. And so they're saying that the people who live...
Yeah, like artsy, theatric kind of people. Not satanic black magic warlocks or whatever they're going for.
lead this country meet in private because they don't live by the same morals and ethics you do. They have a whole different standard of behavior than you do.
Now, Ronald Reagan was a member of the United World Federalists for 13 years. He wanted to bring about a new world order upon the ashes of American sovereignty. Is it possible that you haven't got the full message about Red Ronnie? In fact, Red Ronnie, that's not my terms. That's what they called him in Hollywood. A member of the American Veterans Committee, twice cited as an instrument of the Soviet Union. He was the first individual in the band, well, speaker, major speaker, personality at the Hollywood Legion Stadium to ban the bomb. He was developed. He put on a mask, and I think it's time that we take off that particular mask.
So these Bohemians, then they meet, what, once a year up in San Francisco?
For the last 2 weeks of July, from July 15th to the end of July, they meet for 2 weeks every year.
For 2 solid, continuous weeks?
For 2 solid weeks. They meet in conclave, and some of the most important...
This is hilarious, like, how contrived it is, and how Terry Cook, like, constantly tries to guide the conversation because he realizes everyone's just rambling. But he comes off like he doesn't know. He's like, what? You telling me these people meet for 2 continuous weeks? Yeah, you've done the research, Terry. You know this thing, but...
movie stars, national leaders from around the world, and they say it's the only place that that enemies, so-called enemies on both sides of a war, can meet quietly behind the scenes and be friends.
So they go out for this 2-week period of bonding and socializing.
Socializing and chit-chatting and getting together to decide what war they're going to have next time and who's going to be the enemy and who will be the good guy. And so,
Jordan, we have pictures.
And remember, war is good business.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say about this is the world does not work like this.
We have pictures with the president with his hand stretched out, holding a red rose.
But I have about 15 major color pictures of communist leaders throughout the world holding a red rose in their hand, and these are from newspapers and magazines. I began to pick up on this because someone alerted me to it, that the symbol of the red rose implies not only socialism and communism, but a secret society operating behind socialism and communism that uses a red rose.
This way out Willie holding the rose. We find Khrushchev. We find
all the communist
Brezhnev,
leaders,
all the communist leaders, and then we find the president of the United States over in his early years leading anti-American demonstrations in the Soviet Union.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that it's not enough to say these things. You really must show the pictures so that people will see that what we're talking about here are symbols and emblems.
Well, even Hitler used red and black.
Another interesting tactic that these people use, like, he just let it slip there. It's not enough to say the words, you have to show them the pictures, because that implants it into your head. It completely implants the thought then. It's very slick.
Didn't he?
Yes,
so,
he certainly did.
And he said that Nazism is similar to socialism, didn't he?
Well, no, Nazi means National Socialist. National Socialist means Nazi. Benito Mussolini was, before he founded the Fascist Party, was associated with the Communist Party. In fact, Adolf Hitler, on February 5th, I think it was 1941, he said, basically, National Socialism and Marxism are the same. The whole of National Socialism is based on it.
That's interesting, because here we have Gorbachev very frequently using the term New World Order, and he says it's going to bring about a new world community, a new kind of civilization, in fact, quote unquote. And then we had Hitler using the same term. We had Bush using the same term.
August 23rd, 1939. What are the fellows doing here? They are putting together an agreement, the Commun-Nazi Peace Pact. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Peace Pact, the Hitler-Stalin Pact, they joined together.
That worked out well, didn't it?
1939. What did they do? They were talking about the invasion of Poland. And they did, in fact, invade Poland and rape and ravage that particular nation.
Now, let me bring up this point, that if you remember that Mussolini was an ally of Adolf Hitler, and that Adolf Hitler signed 2 concordant contracts with the Vatican. The Pope Pius XII signed 2 contracts with Adolf Hitler, that he would throw full Catholic support in Europe behind the new regime of Adolf Hitler if Hitler, upon winning the World War, would establish the Roman Catholic Church as the only legitimate religion of the world under the new order of the world. So there was a contract
in Dr. Anthony Sutton's book, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, we find that the Bush family was heavily involved in financing Hitler, and the Kennedy family as well.
Right. Now, the point is, I want to continue with this. When you understand, we're talking about the Vatican, we're talking about Hitler and Mussolini. We're talking about the fascists of Europe in war with America and England. Now we're talking about the Empire Strikes Back, and as we said in the last program, New York is the Empire State. That's why you have Steven Spielberg and George Lucas movies talking about the Lost Ark, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Who was that going for the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones but Adolf Hitler? And in The Last Crusade, it's Adolf Hitler again. So what we're
Hollywood is making pictures not for the profit, but for the propaganda. And
for the propaganda.
Yes.
But you see, they know what they're saying. And as I brought out to you before, the old magic practicing priest of England, the old Celtic priest, used to work their magic like Merlin the magician with his magic wand. And magic wands were always made out of holly wood. So I'm saying that Hollywood has been used by, and that's why motion picture stars are called movie stars. Because in the Bible, stars were
Love the Gish Gallop, don't you? He's just going from one thing to another, tie this thing to that thing, this thing to that thing. Master of playing with words.
Referred to as lesser illuminaries. So these lesser illuminaries are working for the big Illuminati. So the big Illuminati are using the lesser Illuminati. The lesser illuminaries are just stars.
So what you're saying, Jordan, is most of us are asleep.
We're totally
very
asleep.
subtly being conditioned by a number of occultic organizations, occultic attacks, occultic conspirators to condition us into this.
Well, we are being awakened, really, to the New World Order. You take a look in like Time magazine. I'm going to bring it out again. You say you want a revolution, but are we willing to pay the price? They're talking. We don't want a revolution. We want a revelation. They say, who pays for Yasser Arafat? You know who pays for Yasser Arafat? Who gets Yasser Arafat's fat out of the fire? The United States government came over there to Lebanon when his back was against the sea. He would have been wiped out by the Israeli army. And the United States says no, 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 because they want to control this particular conflict. They brought up U.S. troops and U.S. ships to get Yasser Arafat's fat out of the fire and bring him over to Libya. Because they wanted him alive, because they want a controlled conflict. The same thing is happening in South Central Los Angeles. The same thing is happening in major cities throughout the United States and throughout the world. This is conflict control, and the symbols are everywhere.
And let me explain to the audience something very simple in relation to what you're saying. In Africa, and the big game hunters in Africa for many years used to, when you go out to hunt the big game, you wouldn't go into the jungle to look for the big game. You would hire many of the natives to go out with cans and bottles and surround about a 10-mile circle out in front of you and work in, beating cans and bottles and screaming and frightening your prey, the lion or the animal that you're looking for, and he's your prey, and you keep closing in until finally whatever is out there comes out into the open, and he's a sitting duck. That is precisely what has been happening for the last 100 years. The Illuminati have been purposely organizing, directing, and financing wars, revolutions, violence, and bloodshed, so that it will sufficiently impress and frighten the world of humanity into accepting a new order, a new police state that will finally put down all the law and order, the disorder in the world. And it is the oldest trick in the book. Our greatest enemy is not in a crack house, it's in the White House. It's not in a bar room, it's in the boardrooms. And so the point I'm making is that we we are being manipulated from the very top, and we need to wake up and find out that America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave, because we're not free, and we darn sure ain't brave.
Any longer.
This is just straight up right-wing populism.
Longer.
Well, it's time to wake the town and tell the sheeple. We are being led like sheep to the slaughter. I don't know if you've ever seen sheep go to the slaughter, but they are generally led by a Judas goat. The Judas goat will bring them all the way up the ramp, and right before they drop the trap on the sheep, the Judas goat steps to the side.
And that's why they have their offspring. These Illuminati refer to their offspring in their publications as their children, their offspring. They refer to your offspring as kids. You have kids because you're just like a goat.
Sheeple.
You're sheeple. That's why you have kids.
And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. There's no question about it. They're going to be identified. They're going to be marked. Hillary, how much clout? Well, Hillary has brought in Janet Reno. I keep thinking of Janet Reno as sort of Hyman Himmler in drag.
Yeah.
There was a war waged on a Christian church in Waco. This is the first time there has been an armed military assault against the United States people since the Civil War.
And we ate it, didn't we?
Yeah,
and the people sat back and said, oh, well, God, we got to get rid of that fanatic, those crazies out there.
Yeah,
they said, in the name of God, Time magazine, what happens when believers embrace the dark side of faith? Now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, Koresh never went in and attacked the ATF. He had never attacked the government attacked them.
Well, there appears to be no substantiation for it. Those are allegations made by the government. But it's interesting.
And they gave the orders to slaughter. Reno gave the orders which came down from the President of the United States.
Well, the very first indictments were sealed. We still don't know what he's guilty of. No. They have sealed indictments, and we'll never know what he was supposedly guilty of.
Mass murder in America, and the sheeple,
and the people
they're looking up. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going down.
But you know, the ironic thing of this is that the government used the fact that allegedly Koresh had been perhaps molesting some children, and so they said, well, we have to save the children by going in and killing them all. Isn't that paradoxical?
With American tanks, as you see the flames, they're going up right up on top there. Right. No question about it.
So, you know, we can't allow this abuse
to go on. They said David was shot in the head, yes.
Right.
Not by himself, but by, see the flames, they're going up right up on top there. Not by himself, but by the ATF, or agents from this multi-jurisdiction, MJTF.
MJTF is Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force Police. MJTF, Multi-Jurisdictional
We're going to be taking a look at FEMA coming in.
In other words, a national police force.
Right. The Federal Emergency Management Agency. We're going to be taking a look at FEMA. No question about that.
And that never comes to fruition. Nearly 30 years later, and they're still talking about FEMA camps and FEMA this and FEMA that today, and FEMA has never taken over or anything. Still.
What is that? Well, that's one of the New World Order's military operations.
That's their Gestapo.
Yeah, and then followed by whom? The United Nations troops in your homes. I was at Westwood in Wilshire, in the city of Los Angeles, taking a look at the city. And it looked like an atomic bomb had hit it. It was laid to waste. 5,300 fires going on at the same time.
And that was nothing compared to
And we're talking about black helicopters flying over Georgia. What are they dropping? Incendiary devices? Is this a created crisis that's coming on?
Folks, there's something going on behind the scenes that you may not even be aware of, because most of America is dead asleep.
And remember that this thing that happened in Los Angeles happened on May 1st.
Ah, May 1st.
Day.
The founding of the Order of the Illuminati.
And that's why in the military, when you're in trouble, you say it's a Mayday. A Mayday call means trouble. And there was trouble in Los Angeles on May Day, and it was not by chance.
Now, one very important thing. This Illuminati was put together in May 1st, 1776, but the cover of the Illuminati documents is that we find the exact same pyramid. The exact same pyramid that is on the back side of the $1 bill. And you get into Washington, D.C., and what do we see here? This is extremely important. You say, well, it couldn't possibly be that these individuals had control over that city? over that city way back in the 1790s. But if you take a look, here is the Illuminati pyramid. The capital of the United States is at the top of the eye of the pyramid. You see the separation. And Jordan, go on and explain that.
Yes, the obelisk, you'll see the Egyptian obelisk here. The Egyptian obelisk points up to the top of the triangle or the top of the pyramid. We're talking about occultic forces. We're talking about the five-pointed pentagram, which was used by satanic worshipers for thousands of years. If you take the 5 points off of a five-pointed star or a pentagram, you have left in the middle a pentagon. That's why the United States has a pentagon. The pentagon is directed toward the North Star because, according to the ancient Babylonians, that's where you gathered power from the gods of the North in war. We're talking about sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence. We're talking about a concerted effort to manipulate the human beings of this country into a new order and a new world, and the people are going along with it, docile, and have not the faintest idea.
It says Novus Ordo Seclorum. That's on the
you know, that
dollar
really
bill.
interests me. That the term seclorum. You said earlier that meant secular world. Now, doesn't that secular really mean more than you know?
Well, these people think of themselves as God, Terry.
Well, but the secular,
these are the new gods.
But secular, if you ask a minister what secular means, he'll say the secular world and we Christians, meaning that it's a world, a secular world, without the God that created us. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So what we're looking at is we're looking at a new God, a Luciferian God, a satanic God who will be the leader of the New World Order. So the New World Order is the New World Order without the old God of the Bible and with the new God, Lucifer, Satan.
Now, you take a look at the pentagram.
We want to bring out one point here in relation to what he says. We're not talking about an evil genius somewhere in Bavaria. We're talking about America. Here is the New World Order. We are in the middle of the most diabolical, conspiratorial movement ever developed on the face of the earth, right here in America, in Washington, D.C.
Which kind of sounds all very ridiculous, considering all the other things I've pointed out earlier in the first video, because they're just repeating a lot of the same stuff.
Pentagram is really the pentagon, and you take a look at the hand of the stalker, the night stalker. What is his name? Ramirez?
Yeah, Ramirez.
Mm-hmm. And the fellow went out there and ripped and raped and robbed.
He's not.
Okay. Yes, Richard Ramirez was a Satanist. Is that hidden? Is that not known? What are you saying? He's an initiate? And in the same league as George Bush? Because I can guarantee that he's not. What I would say, though, about the architecture of Washington, D.C., yes, a lot of Freemason imagery is incorporated into the architecture. All in all, I think the imagery that is used is harmless, and they think that it's black magic, Illuminati calling cards. But I think a lot of it is just innocent imagery.
The only one.
Of course, no. And the First Church of Satan in San Francisco, Anton LaVey's group, they used the pentagram. And if we take a look at the map of Washington, D.C., here's the White House at the top of the pentagram, the same satanic seal on the First Church of Satan. The configuration was laid out, and of course we have the goat of Mendes, also from the all of the satanic rituals, and it goes right up to the White House.
And the skull and bones. For example, when Christ was murdered, he was murdered on the hill of what? Golgotha, which means what, literally?
Place of the skull.
Skull and bones, you see? And so since then, the pirates have had on their flag, all the satanic evil men in the world have always utilized the skull and bones, and I believe, it's my own personal interpretation, that it's to mock Christ for what they did to him at the hill.
The Illuminati came to the United States through a fraternity, a Faustian financial fraternity. In 1832, and if we take a look at this Faustian financial fraternity, we will see that we have the skull and bones, and we see a little 32 underneath the symbol. Now, George Bush was in there. William Buckley, Jr., who would talk in very Edwardian tones. I asked Bill Buckley about his membership in the Skull and Bones in New Orleans. He got up and running, almost went running out of the room.
He refused to even comment.
George Bundy, I addressed this to George Bundy. He just came completely discombobulated on the stage. I wish I had a picture of that event.
And George Bush was asked one time, and he changed the subject.
Of course.
So
that's what it's all about.
People are talking about our national leaders.
But it's time that we get down to the bottom line, and we shall return with just that. Adolf Hitler had a plan to identify all of those whom he considered to be enemies, enemies of the Third Reich. Well,
yeah, we know who those enemies were, right? The same people that you don't like. Jews, socialists, communists, members of the LGBTQ community, Romani, all seem to be people that you guys have a problem with. Interestingly enough.
well, there's another program coming up to identify all the people everywhere. Mandatory vaccination program. Hillary's talking about it. Adolf Hitler had implanted on the back of the arms of those individuals who were unacceptable, whom he considered to be useless eaters, a number. Some people call it the mark of the beast. The Jews, the gypsies, the gays, they were all earmarked for extermination. Christians, yes. And now, the year is 1993. Would you like to be the first on your block to be injected, to have this needle implanted into your child's hand, or maybe in the forehead? Are you beginning to feel like a number? How about the personal identification number, PIN, or the VIN? There's a new number for your car. When you go down the road, it sends out a signal. A signal when the scanner hits it. When you go through the next scanner, what happens? The next scanner? Well, it tells the Department of Motor Vehicles or the police that you've gone too fast. And you get a ticket. What, a ticket? Yes. Automatically, in the mail. Terry, your expertise is enormous.
Sounds like good technology to me. I mean, not necessarily the microchips in the hands, but, you know, I mean, none of this has really happened yet, but still.
In this area, and you've discovered that they have still a smaller chip to identify the people, just like they identify cattle.
That's right, Anthony. Few people are even aware that in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, the city council voted a little over a year ago to require that all pets leaving the dog pound, the animal shelter, receive one of these implantable identifying chips in the back of the neck. Whether you have a cat or a dog or whatever, if it gets lost in the city of Los Angeles, escapes from its owner, it's picked up by the pound, it'll be taken to the shelter, and before you can take it home, it must have been injected in the back of its neck with...
They get a vaccination.
With an ID chip.
Now we're talking about a vaccination program coming from Hillary Clinton, right?
Right.
And what is the difference between one of these transponders in the back of the hand or in the forehead and Adolf Hitler's mark at the back of the arm?
Well, of course...
There's no difference, is there?
That was a trial run, Anthony, for a New World Order. He used the same term. That was just a trial run, a foreshadowing, a taste of what's really coming. But this is a much more sophisticated form of Luciferian control. In fact, when most people receive this, they'll think they've been enlightened and initiated into this glorious New World Order. They'll have been deceived deceived in thinking that it's a gold card, if you will. At American Express, the most elite mark of the New World Order will be this injected
Well, I mean, some people are going to say, well, look, my wife doesn't stand any chance of being, you know, robbed. I mean, I can go into the ATM machine and simply go zap, and I can buy anything. I mean, we don't have to use currency anymore, right? I mean, it'd be simply a mark. You go into the market, you bring it to your hand over the scanner, and it automatically debits this money from your account. Oh, and the scanner, I mean, it would just like this, if you, let's assume this was in the back of the hand, and Jordan, if you will just goes through the scanner, and then you can have a read on the back of the scanner. It'll tell you who you are, where you live, what vehicle you drive, if you're wanted by the police or any other Gestapo-ized agency. What are we going to have?
Well, now
we're going to have a total police state. This is going to make Adolf Hitler look like a Boy Scout. This out-Hitler's Hitler.
Yes.
And this is the program.
Yes, but the deception is going to be so great, people won't think that it's evil.
What do you mean going to be so great?
Well,
what are you talking about? It is great. I mean, this is now.
I mean, at the point of implementation, when people eventually have to face receiving this, they're going to have been deceived so greatly that they'll actually think it's something good. In fact, the whole New Age movement, the New World Order crowd is telling people that the 666 mark of the beast is the most elite thing that could ever happen to them.
Now, it's an 18-digit number. We have the Social Security number, the SS number, and then we have an area code, so it'll tell you where you live, everything about you.
The new 9-digit postal zip code. You know, you have 5 digits, they're adding 4 with spaced by a hyphen, and your Social Security number, which is also 9 digits. So 9 digits Social Security, 9-digit zip code gives a total of 18 digits, and they plan to divide those 18 into 3 separate 6s.
And all of the numbers are contained in a big place called the Beast. Where? Brussels?
The Beast is the nickname computer for the Euronet computer in Luxembourg. But there's even a larger one, more capable than anything the Beast could have ever done now, and that's in Culpeper, Virginia, the underground nuke-proof facility of the Federal Reserve, which we already explained is controlled by the Illuminati, And in Canterbury, Australia now, there's a master underground computer that's capable of controlling everything on Earth. So all these systems are now networked, including with the Euronet Beast.
And the Gannett Corporation is trying to get a message across to the people. I don't know if you've ever seen this picture. Feel like a number? Take care. The cure for the Common Health Program. And of course, the Common Health Program, they would have all of your medical history, all of it, on this little scanner. You say, well, this is wonderful. And you'd see a number on the top of one's head. Well, I don't see one on yours, Terry. I mean, apparently you haven't made the decision to go with it.
Anthony, I like my hairdo better.
Now, isn't that like an advert for trying to say that you take care of your customers? You won't treat your patients or customers as just a number? That's what it feels like that's really getting at, but because it's healthcare and a barcode on a person, they're twisting it to say something completely different. Very deceptive.
But it's interesting that we're being conditioned, folks, and if you don't think so, just look on the billboards on the side of the freeway. This is one of them. And this was placed on the side of the freeway about 6 months ago. And it's supportive of a conditioning program to get you used to having things placed on your body, on your head specifically, and on your hand, and so on.
Well, if people think for one moment that individuals aren't being conditioned, you better start taking this seriously.
That's right.
Here we are. Feel like a number. Well, we are numbered.
And notice
from womb to tomb.
That's right. And notice at the top here, Anthony, where it says Gannett Outdoor Corporation. Gannett Corporation is a major media corporation. They control a number of things, and they are a major organization, major contributing organization into the Council on Foreign Relations. In other words, they're part of the Illuminati network, specifically regarding media events and media information.
And you've got an article over here called the Cashless Society.
That's correct.
And of course, in Singapore, we already have the situation. No cash. Cashless society. It's ready to go.
And a cashless society is the most important facet, the most important controlling facet of this new world economic order. Remember now, we have three facets to this new world order enslaving government. We have the new world order, the political part of it. We have the new world economic order, which is the enslaving economic part of it in a cashless society. And as well as that, we have the religious order, meaning the New Age movement that we discussed previously. So this magazine now is a magazine published by another sub-organization of the Illuminati. The Futurist is a magazine designed to condition us to their plan that is coming. And in this one particular issue, you'll notice here that there's a symbol on the front. It looks like a dollar symbol, and you may not see that it's really an electronic circuit, meaning that the new money that's coming, and they say that here, is electronic money, not paper money, not coin money, but credits and debits. Electronic funds transfer in a cashless society, not just in the United States, but globally. Now notice on one of the prime articles here, it talks about a cash-free society. In other words, folks, there is a plan to take the entire globe cashless, according to information I've gleaned from research, by 1997 at the very latest.
Well, wait a minute, it's not quite free. You've got to give up your freedom. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Yes.
Your freedom, and it's sort of like buy now, pay later.
That's right.
And then when you zip through, you can say, well, my child is 7F7D43202C.
That's right, and with that one...
Wait a minute. So they're talking about how bad it would be to be in a cashless society where you had instant access to your money through debits and credits. You know, like what we use today, debit and credit cards. Yet in the previous half of the video, they were complaining about fiat money and how money was fake. Make it make sense.
Number, they don't need your name. They don't need your address and everything else, because the computer banks have all that. All they need is your number, and that's why they're getting us so used to our Social Security number. And most of us are reluctant to kind of give it out. Well, not so much anymore.
In Revelation, is it 13? They talk. There's a statement. Do you remember it?
Revelation 13 is the chapter in the Bible that specifically states that just before the end of the world, as it were, the end of the age specifically, according to the Bible, just at that time, approximately 3.5 years before the end of all things, according to Scripture, that a global dictator will come to power and lead the whole world into a new world order. Now, it doesn't use that phraseology, but it describes the concepts of a new world order. The Antichrist, this global dictator who will impose this 666 number.
Well, Hitler had charisma. He just didn't have all of the charm.
Well, he had a different kind of charisma, yeah, without charm, I guess.
You want to remember, too,
this eschatology that he keeps referencing, this Antichrist ruling the planet in a one-world government, and his interpretation of the book of Revelation is quite a new thing in the nearly 2 millennia of Christianity. It was kind of popularized in America by Hal Lindsey in a book called The Late Great Earth. And it's kind of where you get a lot of this. It's American evangelical, left behind, rapture kind of Christianity. That isn't what Christianity was for nearly 2 millennia, really. And so far, every prediction made by these people has turned out to be wrong, hasn't happened. Hal Lindsey predicted the rapture like twice and it didn't happen. So it's quite funny how that doomer version of Christianity is very attracted to this conspiratorial stuff. The conspiracy has a lot of strange bedfellows.
That all presidents have speech writers. All politicians in this country have speech writers.
They had a teleprompter. I mean,
they have teleprompters. They have idiot boards.
With a teleprompter.
Because they're not speaking from the heart. The Bible talks about from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, from a man who is honest. These people are reading speeches by their masters who have written for them what they are to say and how they're to say it.
Well, we don't have teleprompters here today, but one thing that we do have is knowledge. And it is the knowledge that will set you free. You have to have the truth, because the truth will set you free. I did a tape with Dr. Robert Strecker called Mega Murder 2000. Does it fit in with the Millennium 2000? Yes, I think it does. There was a vaccination program started in Africa. What was it for? To end smallpox. Smallpox given to the black population. Is the black population considered to be useless eaters by this oligarchy? I think so. When the black population got the smallpox vaccine shots in Uganda, Senegal, and Zaire, they came down with AIDS. When the gays got the hepatitis B vaccine shots in gay bars throughout the country from the Public Health Service, they got a thing called AIDS. This is not by accident. This is by design. It was planned that way. It's mega murder. It's all out in, there's enough documentation to prove it 100 times over. Dr. Alan Cantwell.
No, there isn't. There really isn't.
Dr. Robert Strecker. Dr. William Campbell Douglas. They're all saying the same thing. That it was genetically engineered. AIDS was genetically engineered with monies that were coming from you. Yes, for the bacteriological warfare experiments at Fort Detrick, Maryland.
Now, listen, I'm not going to go into the details of all of this because I'm not highly educated in all of this. But what I will say is the amount of research that has been done into HIV/AIDS, surely more people would have come out and said this thing that they're saying. Many, 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 many scientists around the world have been researching HIV, AIDS, cancer, and many other things. So I don't think there's a big conspiracy. You just got to ask yourself that question, but also research it.
Anthony,
These people are guilty of murder.
Let me add this point, that what is it? The Center for Disease Control, which is in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, has a government institution called the Center for Disease Control. Words are important. It's not the Center for Disease Eradication, but the Center for Disease Control. It's like in California, we have something called the criminal justice system, not the American justice system, not the California justice system. We have a criminal justice system. Words are very important to the...
What, so is justice for the criminals? Again, he loves the words.
Illuminati, Center for Disease Control. We're wondering how these diseases have popped up in the American Indian population. In New Mexico, you had what was it, the other one in Chicago and Detroit, which was the Legionnaire's disease, AIDS. These things are manufactured purposely for a purpose. And so I'm saying that there is something organized and directed, and it's here in this country.
Well, Dr. Falalu Kane, who is the ambassador to the United States from Senegal, did a show with me and Dr. Strecker and his brother, Ted Strecker. 10 days later, Ted Strecker was murdered.
You know, that's a part of the Global 2000 plan to
people don't know what the Global 2000 plan is, so I want to get into that. Global 2000 plan, well, it is to reduce the population of the planet by 25% by the year 2000. 1,250,000,000 people. Now, how can that possibly happen? Dr. Bertrand Russell said that war thus far has not been successful. Perhaps successful in reducing the population.
In other words, it hasn't killed enough people.
Right.
That's right.
So perhaps bacteriological war, I mean, perhaps a disease could be created. In essence, this is what he was saying. His book?
It hasn't been successful. Yeah, as in it hasn't fixed anything. Not as in it hasn't killed enough people. Wow.
The impact of science on society. His association, Illuminati.
Yes, and this is being brought home to us here in California by what we're calling the killer bees. These killer bees that are Africanized bees, we're told Africanized. If it's bad, it's from Africa. Africanized bees. The Los Angeles Times had a cover article in a newspaper, which I still have, said that the killer bees were developed by the CIA in Brazil, and that they were part of a project that is being operated by the CIA in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean area, for genetic reconstruction of humans, genetic reconstruction of life forms, and that these killer bees are nothing more than a bunch of bees that got out from a laboratory in the CIA in Brazil. So if your family is killed by killer bees, remember it's the CIA that designed them.
But the bottom.
Oh my, I haven't heard such bollocks in my life. Well, I've listened to hours and hours of Jordan Maxwell, so I have heard plenty of bollocks, but wow. Everything's a conspiracy, isn't it? Everything. Killer bees are created by the CIA. That doesn't even need research, it just needs laughing at. It just needs that.
Bottom line is that there are a lot of new diseases reoccurring now that we had previously thought were conquered. We have new strains of TB. We have new strains of virtually everything that's drug-resistant or drug-proof.
Well, I'm not worried about the old diseases. I'm worried about the ones that they create to bring down the population of the world. Because if they consider gays to be
undesirable,
well, not only just undesirable, but
a threat.
Not really a threat. They simply want to exterminate them. But that they consider them to be useless eaters.
They need to be
blacks,
cleansed.
useless eaters.
The same term that Hitler
to wash the society.
Anthony, let me spend a couple more minutes sharing with the folks this technology, because few people have heard of this, and I would like to share just another moment with them. You know, we can talk about deadly new diseases and infectious this and infectious that and an extermination program, and the average person just can't relate to that. What is the most common denominator that someone can relate to? Anything that affects their wallet, right?
Absolutely.
Affects their pocket. Well, this new world economic system is going to affect your pocket, so listen up, folks. There is a plan, and I have their actual document here, to bring about a new world economic order. And they say in this booklet, as published by the World Constitution and Parliament Association in Denver, as we mentioned, that's a sub-organization of the United Nations. And this reveals their plan to do away with cash and institute an entirely new cashless system of debits and credits, electronic funds transfer. They're going to call this new buck, if you will. It's going to be electronic.
This is exactly like earlier in the video with the Earth Constitution. It's just a chill little hippie group, I'm sure. It's nothing to do with satanic New World Order. Why? Because there is no satanic New World Order.
Buck, but they're going to call it the Earth dollar. It's not going to be any paper money. It's not going to be coin money. It's going to be electronic money, a debit and a credit, but they're still going to call it an Earth dollar. so that it's something that everyone on the earth will have. Instead of having a franc in France, it'll be an earth dollar there as well.
But they've got to panic the people. They've got to bring about some sort of created crisis. They've got to create riots in the streets to bring in the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the United Nations.
Crash.
I've written a manifesto called the Free World Manifesto, which is in opposition to the New World Order, not calling for a united nations, but rather a disunited nations, an alliance of free people, sovereign and independent. And you got the national identification card info right there.
Just another thing that's conditioning us. Here we have a Los Angeles Times newspaper article, rather recent one, June 17, 93. And this article says there's a new clash again over a national ID card. And let me read one specific thing here. It says, there is simply no way to enforce our existing laws without a new form of identification. And we suggest that it be a Social Security card with a photo, a fingerprint, and verifiable barcode. You see? So we showed you the barcode conditioning propaganda here earlier, and now they're saying it in the newspapers.
Well, Adolf Hitler would have loved this.
Yes. Oh,
he would have loved it. It's just, what you were saying about, do you have family? How do you put it?
You have family in Berlin, do you?
And then about 1989, we see an article in a newspaper that's owned by Gannett Corporation. And as we showed you earlier, the Gannett Corporation owns most of the media in the country. And here they have another propaganda mill item where it's titled Future Shocker Biochip. And this is what Anthony showed you earlier, a biochip. That's an injectable computer chip for the purpose of identifying.
Just like in Nazi Germany.
Well, better than Nazi.
Oh, I mean, the principle is it's identical to that of Adolf Hitler.
Identical.
Just better technology.
In the
He just has to keep bringing it back to that. It's got to be things that evoke fear in the people. Nazi, Hitler, communist, satanic New World Order. Just all scary things that don't fit together in any way, shape, or form. None of those things are alike.
1938 gun registration legislation of Adolf Hitler is identical to the gun legislation that was passed in 1968 after the assassination of Robert Francis Kennedy.
But it was disguised. But
disguised, no, word for word, it's verbatim.
Yeah. But,
verbatim, word for word.
But disguised in the sense that the average person is just not aware of that. They don't know their history well enough to understand that. But back to this article, this is very important, folks, because the Bible says that, that this final Antichrist-led system by a man whose number is 666, says he'll impose an economic mark in the back of our right hands or in our foreheads. And without this economic mark, literally the mark of the beast, it says, will not be able to buy or sell anything in the world economy. So not only do we have now all these occultic leaders...
I've got to interrupt you. You say we. Are you ready to accept this?
Well, those of us who reject it will be killed.
Well, or fight.
I'm not going to take it.
Well, I'm not going to fight it. I think it's possible that we can win this.
But Anthony, this is very important. Let me get to this, because this newspaper article, for the first time in 2,000 years, specifically discussing placing this purchasing computer chip in our hands. That's very biblically significant. So this would lend credence to the Bible. We really don't, most of we Christians really don't need that. But for people out there who don't believe that the Bible's true and that this New World Order is going to be a Hitlerian dictatorship under a global Antichrist, well, here we have secular evidence, as it were, that the Bible's prophecies are about to be fulfilled. It says specifically here, a number could be assigned at birth and follow one throughout life. And most likely it will be implanted on the back of the right or left hand for convenience, so it'll be easy to scan at stores. And it could be used as a universal identification card that would eventually replace all present forms of credit cards, passports, driver's licenses, and that sort of thing. Folks, we have conditioning going on, and now look at this. We have another photo, another billboard of a picture of somebody's right hand, okay, coming across a billboard. And guess what? Gannett Corporation okay, is the same corporation that put up this sign, this billboard.
Your money is always within reach, and
with
of course,
your right hand.
I don't think the man knows how billboard advertising seems to work. Gannett own the structure which the billboard is on. People pay Gannett to rent that space. In England, one of the big companies that owns most of the billboards is Clear Channel. So companies pay Clear Channel to rent the space to put their advert up. That's what it is. It's not that Clear Channel is pushing any form of media. It's just, they're just advertising.
There's your right hand, and to the star
and
ATM network.
And a satanic pentagram star, 5-pointed pentagram.
Well, that's just a coincidence.
It's just another coincidence,
just another
right?
coincidence,
And the Bible says you'll have access to your money if you have the mark in the right hand.
As someone who used to do this, I used to collect all types of pictures and advertisings that had what I would say occult imagery, or, well, exactly where these guys are coming from with this. I wouldn't say it's a coincidence. What I would say is that we're reading too much into it. Because you can make this, like with the hand, you can start to try and put the Satanism, Satanic, Luciferian, New World Order, Microchip into this with the 5-pointed star. Yeah, you can make it look like that, but honestly, I think for myself, I was reading way too much into that. I was making it be what I thought it was.
Hand, and here is another very subtle spiritually conditioning item.
Now we have here Executive Order 11490, assigning emergency preparedness functions to federal departments and agencies. In other words, surrendering all of our rights to a federal government. All of them? All of them. Are they going to hold anything back? No. They want it all. That's what we talked about. They want it all. There isn't anything that you've got that they're not finding and taking away. They want your children, your wife, your family, your home, everything. They want it all. And if we don't understand this, we've got to wake up. We have to incite a revelation to avoid a revolution. If we follow the other sheep, we will certainly be led to the slaughter. Never in the annals of human history has so few done so much so often to rape, rob, and ravish so many as the warlords and the warlocks of Wall Street and Washington. Jordan Maxwell, what can you say? 35 years of research. Jordan, in conclusion.
I would like to say that all we need to do is do what we've been doing in this country, and all the conspirators have to do is do what they've been doing, and their timetable for taking us over very soon will be concluded. If you understand that symbols and emblems and things that we see every day are like the letters of an alphabet, if you put them together, they tell a story. If you understand, wake up and understand that we are not in a benevolent government, that Plato said, the price good people pay for non-involvement in public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
Terry Cook, you've got a tape, 666 Mark of the Beast. You did my radio show, Radio Free World. It's an excellent audio.
Thank you.
You've got a book, companion book that comes out, and I highly recommend it. When I say highly recommended, it is essential that this message gets across to the public.
But right now, folks, as I indicated, I have a nice booklet of information on the implantable biochip that we spent a little bit of time showing you earlier, and how this is the plan for the coming mark of the New World Order. So if you're interested, our addresses are at the end of the screen. So write me, Terry Cook, at the address you'll see it at the end of the program on the screen.
So I have a tape and a audio tape, a videotape, and a whole brochure brochure of material that I have put together over the years, and at the end of the program you'll see my address. And just write to the address and we'll get back to you in the mail.
And we have another tape too. It's called Lucifer 2000. And it gets into the game plan of the Illuminati for the turn of the century.
And so you can be contacted through your Malibu address then on the screen. So write to Anthony Hilder at the address on the screen at the end of the program, and he'll be happy to send you a catalog of information on his videotape.
But Terry, bottom line, now you're a Christian. You've got an answer for those who happen to be considering becoming a Christian or who are already so inclined.
Right. I think we need to share this with people. Number one, you should be spiritually prepared. You should take sides. You should take sides with the real God, not the false God of the New World Order. So please accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. If you hadn't ever thought about it, do so immediately. Open the Bible and accept Jesus as your Savior. Secondly, get prepared financially for the New World Order by getting some gold and silver, and also there's going to be a food shortage. Store some food and get your mind set in the combat mode, because we're about to go into the worst time the world has ever known.
Maybe we should order some, include some lead with the gold and silver. One last statement about Millennium 2000. It's one that was made by MacArthur. We shall return.
Well, that was fun. Very, very interesting watching it back. I definitely think I should rewatch that Lucifer 2000 as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. And much love, many blessings.